So typically mature leadership businesses with CEOs that have the future very clearly in their mind would of course realize that the sustainability, the future existence, and the bottom line return to their business will depend on how able they are to visualize, to identify risks. And those risks today, in the minds of these people, is not solely measured in GDP terms, in money terms, but is also measured in the famous letter word ESG. So they look at the environmental risks, they look at the social risks and the governance risks that any business could go through. So typically, the need for the identification of transformation into a future which is surrounded by less risk is done in this way. So typically, most businesses would measure what is most important to them. Not all businesses would have the same priorities. They would realize that a transformation into this new world that supports the environment and the resources that the planet offers us makes sure that their businesses are respectful to people, to their customers, to their shareholders, to their employees, to their directors, and to themselves is an important asset addiction of how they're able to be truly successful, and the governance side of it to make sure that no risk, whether it is in a bank or in the way decisions are taken in a board, or how gender neutral they are in the decisions that they will make, and how customer respectful they're going to be in the policy making, are all ingredients that ensure that businesses thrive using the right resources but away from risk. Clearly, not everybody sees this. So the most mature, especially those businesses that have an understanding of what the international economy is going through right now, would move into this transition irrespective of whether regulation is there or not. What some of them do through the alliance that I chair, the Malta ESG Alliance, is that they collectively not only encourage each other and reassure each other, support each other, but actually are interested as well in motivating supply chain. The small to medium enterprises in Malta, the family businesses, those 2, 3, 4, maybe maximum of 10 people working together who do not have the time to understand all this. But of course, because they serve what would be a leading, mature business organization in Malta, will have the opportunity therefore to understand this risk and naturally transition in the same way. So family businesses in Malta, as you said, are the basis of pretty much of our economy. Small to medium enterprises, but primarily family businesses. And of course that has its positives. Families are knit together, they do everything they can to remain together, to thrive together, to support each other through thick and thin. And they work very hard as well because they're committed to family expectations. On the other hand, it is sometimes hard to distinguish between the emotional relationship of a family with the business relationship that partners would normally have in business. And typically the manner with which we describe it is the distinction between the boardroom table and the family dining table. It's not easy to realize that these two tables should be different. One good way, a governance solution to this would be for family members to remain a family business, to ensure that family members are committed to the business, but are surrounded by well-meaning non-family directors, typically in a minority, in a non-executive role, but ensure that the experience of these non-family, typically corporate experienced directors are able to instill a form of governance to the family members that enable the family to transition from a mindset which is probably that of a smallish, emotionally driven business to one which is corporate, has the right governance structures, the right reporting structures, the right accountability, productivity, measurement structures to ensure that they're able to grow as they were probably envisioned to do so. At MCESD, the consultative council that I chair, this council provides advice, consultancy to government, to cabinet. Literally, that is the role that MCESD plays. And it's surrounded by or is made up of employer body representatives, union body representatives, civil society, GOZO, and members of the government cabinet. A couple of years ago, we realized that there was the need for a North Star for this country, given pretty much everything we've been through, including all the positives. But we needed to make sure that as we move forward into the next steps of progress in this country, we needed to have a vision that is compelling enough, that says the right things, and ensures that our country does not waste its resources, its decision making, its policy making across party, so bipartisan, non-partisan at all, to ensure that we are as efficient in growing this country to become the most productive we can possibly make it. So this vision has been developed, is currently going through the public consultation process. MCESD has been very active through its own task force to enable the introduction of concept ideas into this vision. Pretty much talks about sustainability, talks about competitivity, and talks about authenticity. These are the words that we would use to describe what the vision is meaning to achieve. And of course, as you read through the document, ESG, the environmental part, the planetary boundary side, the need to ensure that well-being through the social dimension is at the center of what we do, but surrounded by the right governance structures, not only at the level of government, but also at the level of business and our society, is fundamental to us to make the next move. So yes, the vision talks about all of those good things. Of course, we are asking for more details and ideally numbers that will ensure that future governments, current and future governments, would be accountable, tangibly accountable to us, the society, which will keep them to account and want to participate through our own investment, through our own decision making, through our own personal choices or business choices into the common vision that our country would have agreed on. That is why a vision for the country with ESG principles very clearly set into place, and possibly with GOZO being a preamble, a phase one, if you like, to the development of this vision for the rest of the country, is a storyline that we all seem to be agreed to. ESG is all about the identification of risk. As we transition into a more competitive, more productive country, the twin transition, the digital and the green transition, is the foundation stone or foundation stones of this transition. I would dare add the third, which is the skill transition, because apart from needing to make sure that we're as green and as digital as possible, we also need to have the right skills. This is very clear to us. It's driven by Malta as a country, driven by the EU, and I probably would assume most of the planet will need to do this. As we do, and we envisage a rate of change which is unprecedented. It will be very fast. It will be scary fast. I, for one, and many people like me, will try to delve into what this could look like, what it's looking like right now, to look like in the next 3 years, 5 years, 10 years max. And it's impressive what we are expected to be going through in order for technology and digitalization, 3D printing, AI, and what all these technologies will do, not only to enable the green transition, but also to enable us to become more human, to be happier, and able to do what we as humans should have been doing in the first place. This is what I worry about. I shifted there, but what I worry about is the rate of change that this is expected to happen with, the timing of it. So I guess that the younger generation, if equipped with the right skills, but they have natural digital skills that naturally will find it easy to catch up with what quantum, what 3D printing, with what AI and robotics and automation will be able to do for them and for their future. It will be harder for the elder generation, and even more so for the elderly in our society. We have people who we really need to entice, to be made more sensitive to what is expected of them, or what is expected to be surrounding them, in order to ensure that in our society, as we cherish, we benefit from this transition, no one is left behind. There is real risk in these technologies in leaving people behind. And therefore, sensitization, not only through education, but also through sensitization programs, through governance principles of ensuring that businesses transition and they collectively move the rest of the society they work within, their customer base, their employees, their directors, people of influence around them, to ensure that everybody benefits from this transition. I think the scariest thing that would worry me is the fact that this is going to happen very fast. And we also need to have a proper plan for upskilling, reskilling of our current workforce. Clarity on what skills our children are meant to have into the industries of the future, probably industries that have not yet been invented, is very much under discussion, and I'm sure we'll get it right. What I'm more worried about, and this is a conversation I have with unions very often, is the need to transition the current workforce, those in the middle of their career, even more so those at the latter part of their career, even the retired people beyond their career. These are all people that need to benefit from this transition, need to be given the tools, and need to be given the space to form part of this transition, either through a mentoring, coaching role, or through a reskilling, upskilling, a position of curiosity, of wanting to do something new, to be able to be more happy, ultimately, as a person, and ultimately also provide the right coaching and mentoring advice and time that the younger generation will require, especially as they develop the need for social skills and emotional intelligence and stuff like that. That is probably where the elderly part, the silver economy we could call it, could very well collaborate with the younger generation as we transition into this future. Collaboration is key. So in any future digital, AI-driven and green-driven future, the most important thing that every human is able to do, or should be trained to do, if it doesn't come natural to him or her, is to collaborate. So we see businesses in competition today collaborating, the banks collaborating in Malta as they transition away from the risks I mentioned earlier, the ESG risks. The same thing will happen in people of different competence or with different skills. As they come together, where skills brought together are able to use the tools that AI, quantum, digital, 3D printing are able to provide. And for these collaborative teams to come up with new ideas, to be more creative, and to come up with the new technologies, the new inventions that we have yet not imagined. The ability for us to research and innovate as a continuous expectation is going to require a lot of risk, a lot of failure for success to eventually provide benefit to an investor and for people to, in a collaborative environment, would have put time into coming up with the new ideas that our future economy is going to require. We know that in a productive world, in a competitive world, any economy, including the Maltese one, is going to require a lot of innovation. Without innovation, we as a country will be left behind, not the people, the whole country. So it is absolutely essential, as also was identified to us in the country report presented to us by the European Union, that we need to spend more money, but also motivate our current crop in coming together to collaborate and come with the new ideas that will enable us to refine ourselves, to reinvent ourselves, and therefore able to contribute to this productive, competitive economy of our country. So any future leader needs to embrace the need to identify risks, even at the level of the limitations that his or her age group would bring towards the format of lateral thinking or emotional intelligence. So the need to collaborate, not from top down, but provide the space for everybody to contribute to the collective vision of a country, of a business, is going to become fundamental. Having young shapers in our society who are crying out loud to be heard, to be listened to, and to ensure that in the time of leadership, of role of the ability to influence at our age group, at a CEO's age group, is fundamentally important for that leader to ensure that he or she is reflecting the expectations of future generations in the most respectful and honorable way. To do that, they need to be connected. It's not going to come from the top down. It has to be a collaborative environment where people of various skills, people of various age groups work together, yes, ultimately under the direction of the C-suite and the CEO in that particular leadership role. Any decision will be taken in this environment will be easily explained to a board of directors, to the shareholders in an AGM, and therefore the embracing of the collective vision, because it is all encompassing. So collaboration and the engagement of future generations in that collaborative effort is going to be the fulcrum, the fundamental of true and successful leadership.